Check and make sure your project directory is set to a folder called Breakdown. Click OK, go to File and load a scene from the Scenes folder called Breakdown2.fxs. When we animated this arm in the last section, we broke down the action into snapshots called extremes. Breakdowns make the extremes operate in a much smoother manner and give style to the animation. Middle mouse click on any one of these, you can see that we've made holds, and he raises his hand to hold and then slams it back down on the ground. Let's check our settings here. Make sure our channel edit is set to all channels. Zoom in so we can see the out point. Go into the Edit tab, and under Keyframe Editing, double check and make sure our spline edit is set to all channels as well. When we press play here, we can see that the hand drifts between the extremes. We want to try and imagine that these do not drift because this is a default spline interpolation. We don't want to worry about how the spline interpolates. We just want to worry about where the poses are at the right frames. So while we're in the Edit tab, toggle Scene Keys flat. So we only have to worry about the extremes and passing positions we're adding in. If we don't need to add any passing positions, we just leave them the way they are. We only add passing positions to accentuate movement, and if there is no movement, we don't want to drop in a ton of keyframes just to make an animation look good. Less is more, and you can animate faster if you don't have to keep correcting yourself with keyframes. So what we want to do here is between these two extremes drop in a breakdown that creates an arc where he raises his hand. Or we could make him arc down below. Or we can make him arc backwards. That's the fun part about putting in breakdowns. You can put them anywhere you want and change the style of the animation completely. Let's scroll to about the middle point here. We'll tap the Enter key and bring up the Create Key dialog. We want to create a group keyframe. Our group is already here in the pull-down menu. We're at frame 25. Click OK. Because we're on Scene Keys flat, we wind up having this key that we've just created exactly the same as our extreme. Gives us something fun to work off of, and we don't get lost between transitions. Click back into Animate. Let's close down the wrist so we can see our controls, and let's make this work. Highlight the bicep. We'll pitch the bicep up. Grab the wrist, pitch the wrist down. We'll bank it down. And that's our first passing position, our first breakdown. When we play between these two, you can see how he's going to bring his hand up into the air. We can go back to this passing position and make it completely different. We can make him bring his wrist up, his elbow up first. Highlight the wrist and we'll pitch it down. So he brings his elbow up first before the rest of his body, which adds a completely different feel to the animation, all with a single keyframe. We're going to go back to this extreme and we're going to pitch it back down again. Grab the elbow, pitch the elbow forward. Let's grab the bicep and bank it back to normal. Highlight the wrist, bank the wrist. He's going to drag his hand along the ground or the table or wherever you think he's going to be. He's going to grab it on the ground, then pick it up into a fist. Let's go to a perspective view here. Make sure we're actually on the ground. Don't be afraid to use more than one axis. Breaking the joints is second nature, and it makes your animation more limber. So don't let physics get in the way of a good animation. Back to camera. This is our first passing position. You can't see the graph here. We'll just by toggling the fit to graph. This is our first animation. He's scrolling over. Let's change that a little bit more. Bank him up and back down again so we can see part of his elbow. Don't get lost in the pose here. Flatten him off again. So between that, he picks it up, his hand, holds it, and then pounds his fist. Let's add the second passing position here, the second breakdown on frame 53. Let's tap the Enter key, bring up the Create Key dialog. We have everything set, so just tap Enter 2 more times. We're going to turn this into an arc that goes down. Right now, he's just going to transition linearly, a straight line between the two poses. So let's go to our breakdown. We'll pitch the arm up. Grab the bicep, run it on heading here. Even pitch it down a bit. Bank it so he's in the middle of his arc. Grab the wrist. We'll rotate it on heading so his wrist drags up. His wrist is kind of limp when he goes to hit and then slams his fist down on the ground. A really good arc between the two animations. So he starts, picks his hand up, slams his fist down. Before he was just moving between the poses. Now he's actually dragging and moving and being a character about it. While this is playing, you can click into the Edit tab, toggle Scene Keys Flat off, and you can see the transition between these frames. Try not to pay any attention to the pillow movement here from the default keyframes. We can clean those up later. We're only concentrating on the keyframes and where they're at. Go into the File tab, File, we're going to save this scene as Breakdown2A.fxs.